At 10:15 a.m., the CEO of my former company called because their biggest client had stopped answering everyone except me. That client represented 60% of their revenue, and they had fired me 3 weeks earlier. My boss thought one person could never be more important than the company. Then he replaced me, dismissed every warning I gave him, and discovered that the client he treated like an invoice had trusted me with something he never even knew existed. Every story here is about someone who got underestimated and made them regret it. For almost 4 years, I managed a single account for a commercial facilities company called Northstar Building Services. We provided maintenance, emergency repairs, security coordination, and property support for hospitals, office parks, and manufacturing sites. Most accounts were manageable. A regional manager handled the relationship. An operations coordinator handled scheduling. Finance sent invoices. Everyone had a lane. But my client was different. My client was Alderon Medical Properties. Alderon owned and managed 38 medical office buildings across 3 states. Their properties housed imaging centers, outpatient surgical clinics, physician groups, physical therapy practices, and diagnostic labs. If an elevator failed at one of their buildings, we had 30 minutes to respond. If a generator alarm went off, we had 15. If a refrigeration unit supporting a lab started warming up at 2 a.m., there was no "we'll get to it Monday." There was only whether someone showed up. And whether they showed up prepared. The contract was worth just under $30 million a year. That was 60% of Northstar's annual revenue. It was also the reason my boss, Victor Kane, slept very comfortably at night. Victor was Senior Vice President of Client Growth. He loved titles. He loved executive lunches. He loved saying words like partnership, scale, and strategic synergy, while other people handled the calls that came in after midnight. His most memorable habit was that he never wrote anything down. Not in meetings. Not on calls. Not when clients explained problems. Victor would just nod slowly, smile with total confidence, and say, "I've got it." Then, 20 minutes later, he would ask someone else what had been discussed. That was how he managed. Confidence first. Details later. And for 3 years, I protected him from the consequences. I knew every Alderon site manager by name. I knew which buildings had unreliable loading docks, which medical tenants needed special access protocols, which locations had aging electrical systems, and which administrators would panic if a contractor arrived without the right badge. I knew the client's chief operating officer, Dana Whitcomb, preferred facts over reassurance. I knew their procurement director, Peter Lang, did not care how friendly you sounded if the monthly reporting was wrong. And I knew that the reason Alderon had renewed with Northstar twice was not our branding, our pricing, or Victor's presentations. It was trust. Trust built at 1:40 a.m. during emergency calls. Trust built when I told them the truth before they had to ask. Trust built because I never promised what I could not deliver. Victor saw none of that. He saw a $30 million number on a quarterly dashboard. Then, one Tuesday morning, he walked into my office, closed the door, and told me I was being transitioned away from the Alderon account. Not promoted. Not reassigned to a better role. Transitioned away. He said it like he was doing me a favor. Then he told me who was taking over. His nephew. A 26-year-old named Connor who had been at Northstar for 7 weeks. And Victor had no idea what that decision was about to uncover. I asked Victor one question before I said anything else. "Has Connor read the service amendment Alderon signed in January?" Victor gave me that calm little smile and said, "He'll learn the account." What he didn't know was that the amendment contained a single clause Dana had trusted only me to manage, and if anyone mishandled it, Northstar would not just lose the client. They could lose the entire contract overnight. Victor sat across from me with one ankle resting on the opposite knee, like he was delivering good news. "Connor needs a meaningful account," he said. "He needs exposure." I looked at him. "Alderon is 60% of our revenue." "Exactly," he said. "It's a chance for him to grow." That was Victor's logic. Give the least prepared person the highest stakes responsibility, call it development, and assume someone competent would quietly catch them if they fell. I had seen that pattern before. The problem was, this time, He had removed the person who usually caught the fall. I asked him whether Connor had worked in medical facilities before. No, Victor said. Has he managed an emergency response contract? No. Does he know Alderon's service credit requirements? He has access to the files. That answer told me everything. Access to files is not knowledge. A folder does not explain why a clause matters. A spreadsheet does not tell you what happens when a building administrator calls at 3:16 a.m. and says their backup generator is showing an active fault. Experience does. I opened my laptop and pulled up the transition plan I had prepared after Victor first hinted at the change. It was 14 pages. Contacts. Site-specific risks. Reporting requirements. Active disputes. Pending maintenance issues. Renewal timeline. Emergency escalation procedures. I had highlighted the most important section in yellow. The January amendment. Under that amendment, Northstar had agreed to a performance guarantee for 7 critical medical sites. If we missed response time requirements more than twice in a calendar quarter, Alderon could trigger a contract review. If we missed them 4 times, they could terminate the agreement for cause. No lengthy negotiation. No friendly conversation. No second chance because someone was learning. Termination. Victor glanced at the document, then pushed it back toward me. You're overcomplicating this, he said. I'm outlining the contract. You've made yourself too central to this account. That sentence landed differently. Not because it was accurate. Because it revealed what he believed. Victor did not see the years of work it took to keep the account stable. He saw a woman who had somehow made herself inconveniently necessary. In his mind, that was a flaw. He wanted Northstar to look bigger than any one employee. That would have been reasonable if he had built a real team around the account. But he had not. He had let me handle everything because it worked. Then, when the work became visible, he decided the person doing it was the problem. I'm not trying to be central, I said. I'm trying to ensure the transition does not put the contract at risk. Victor leaned forward. Then make Connor successful. There it was. Not teach him. Not prepare him. Make him successful. I nodded once. Fine, I said. I'll complete the transition plan. Victor stood up, pleased with himself. I knew you'd be professional about this. He left my office at 9:42 a.m. At 9:48, I sent a transition email. I copied Victor, Connor, operations, finance, legal, and the head of field services. The email listed every open item on the account. There were 19. I included the January amendment. I included the performance guarantee. I included the exact number of response time exceptions already logged that quarter. 1. We had 1 remaining buffer before Alderon became concerned. 2 more misses and the contract review clause could be triggered. I wrote that plainly. Then I offered to conduct a 2-week structured transition, including 3 site visits, for client calls and daily account reviews. Connor replied 20 minutes later. Thanks. Looking forward to bringing a fresh perspective. Fresh perspective. I read that sentence twice. Then I saved it. The first visible mistake happened 3 days later. Alderon had a medical office complex outside Louisville with a history of electrical issues. The building had 2 imaging suites, a surgical center, and a pharmacy on the first floor. The site's emergency generator needed a monthly load test. The date was already on the calendar. The vendor was confirmed. The access paperwork was approved. All Connor had to do was make sure the test happened and send the verification report to Alderon by 5 p.m. Simple. Until he decided the vendor cost was not aligned with the new operating model. That was how he described it in an email. He canceled the approved vendor. Then he assigned a lower-cost contractor who had never worked on that site. He did not ask me. He did not ask field services. He did not check whether the replacement contractor had medical facility clearance. At 8:11 a.m. on the day of the test, the contractor arrived without the proper access credentials. Security denied entry. Connor was in a leadership workshop downtown and did not see the email for 2 hours. By the time he called the contractor back, the testing window had closed. At 4:34 p.m., Dana from Alderon emailed us. I understand the generator test did not occur today. Please confirm whether the building remains compliant with our emergency continuity requirements. That was not an angry email. Dana rarely sent angry emails. That was worse. It was a precise email. One that assumed nothing and documented everything. Connor forwarded it to me with a message that said, "Can you advise?" I stared at the screen for a moment. I was still technically on the account transition team, but Victor had already told everyone Connor was the new relationship lead. So I replied carefully. The client needs a factual response. The test did not occur because the replacement contractor was denied site access. We should not confirm compliance until the approved vendor completes the load test. Connor called me immediately. What should I say? Say that. Can't we just tell them it's being handled? It is being handled. But that is not what they asked. He sounded annoyed. Dana doesn't need all the details. She asked for details. At 5:06 p.m., Connor sent Dana a response. It said, "Our team is actively resolving a minor scheduling issue. The site remains under our full operational oversight." He did not mention that the test had failed to happen. He did not mention the contractor had been turned away. He did not mention that nobody had verified the generator. Dana replied at 5:14 p.m. Please provide the completed load test report by 10 a.m. tomorrow. If no report is available, please confirm that directly. That was the first crack. Victor heard about it the next morning. He called me into his office. Connor was sitting there too, staring at his phone. Victor did not ask what happened. He started with a conclusion. Dana is overreacting, he said. No, I said. She's enforcing the contract. Victor's expression changed. Not much, but enough. You're not helping the transition, he said. I'm explaining the risk. You always make things sound bigger than they are. That was his favorite move. If he could not dispute the facts, he criticized the tone. Connor finally spoke. I thought we were supposed to control costs. You are, I said. But you cannot control costs by canceling required work without confirming the replacement can perform it. Victor held up his hand. We're not going to relitigate every decision. No, because if we did, the decision would look exactly as careless as it was. The approved vendor completed the load test the following afternoon. The generator passed. Northstar avoided a formal response time exception. But Dana had learned something. The person now running the account had made a basic mistake. And the people above him were trying to minimize it. That question was now sitting quietly in her mind. Could Northstar still be trusted? Victor did not notice. He was too busy preparing a presentation for the executive team about reducing dependency risk on major accounts. And that phrase told me the next problem was already coming. Because Victor had decided I was not just being transitioned. I was being erased. 2 weeks later, I was removed from every recurring Alderon call. Not gradually. Not after the transition plan was completed. Immediately. I opened my calendar one Monday morning and saw 6 meetings had disappeared. Client operations review. Quarterly risk meeting. Billing reconciliation. Emergency preparedness briefing. Renewal strategy call. Monthly executive update. All gone. I emailed Victor. Please confirm whether I am no longer expected to attend Alderon meetings. His response came 8 minutes later. Correct. Connor is taking full ownership. Focus on broader portfolio opportunities. Broader portfolio opportunities. There were no broader portfolio opportunities. I had not been assigned another client. No project. No new responsibility. Just a desk, an empty calendar, and a quiet message that I was expected to become less visible. But I had also been copied on an email by mistake. It came from Connor to Victor. The subject line was Alderon Knowledge Transfer. Connor wrote, I think I have the basics, but Simone had a lot of undocumented relationship stuff. Can you let me know what level of access I should give her going forward? Victor replied, keep her out of the client-facing work. We need them seeing one accountable owner. One accountable owner. I understood the strategy now. Victor wanted the client to believe Connor had always been in control. He did not want my name on the account because my presence made the truth inconvenient. So I did the only sensible thing. I documented my exit from every process. I sent a final handoff memo. 31 pages. It included client contacts, technical notes, ongoing risks, contract amendments, escalation paths, and every unresolved issue I could verify. At the top, I wrote one sentence. Effective immediately, all decisions and communications for the Alderon account are owned by Connor Kane and Victor Kane. Then I copied legal. That was the first satisfying turn. Not because anyone thanked me. They didn't. But I had made the accountability visible. If you've ever been underestimated at work, you already know where this is going. Subscribe, because the ending is better than you think. The next week, Dana called me directly. Not through the office. Not through the client line. My personal cell phone. I stared at the number for a second before answering. Hi, Dana. Am I catching you at a bad time? She asked. No. She paused. I was told you're no longer handling Alderon. That's correct. Was that your decision? There are moments when you have to choose between being honest and being reckless. I had no intention of saying anything inappropriate. I had no intention of making Northstar look bad. But I was also not going to lie. No, I said. It was a management decision. Dana was quiet. Then she said, I thought so. That concerned me. Is there an issue? There are several, she said. She did not explain them yet. Instead, she asked whether I had personally reviewed the updated emergency service matrix sent to Alderon that morning. I haven't seen it, I said. Her voice became even more careful. It has your name on it. That was the moment the situation changed. Northstar had sent a document to a $30 million client with my name listed as the account approval contact. A document I had never reviewed. A document I had never approved. I asked Dana to forward it. She did. The matrix had my title beneath a certification line. Reviewed and approved by Senior Director, Client Operations. I was not even a Senior Director. Connor had changed my title in the document because, apparently, it sounded more credible to the client. Then he had used my name to make the plan look vetted. The plan itself had problems. Major ones. It listed emergency response times that Northstar could not meet under the staffing levels Victor had approved. It removed 2 overnight escalation contacts. And it contained a statement that all critical medical sites had dedicated 24/7 supervisory coverage. They did not. Not even close. I called Victor. He answered with an exhausted sigh. What now? My name is on a client document I did not review. Oh, that? Connor used the old format. It says I approved the emergency service matrix. You know the account. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Simone, please don't turn this into another process debate. It is not a process debate. Remove my name immediately and notify Alderon that I did not approve the document. He went quiet. Then he said, Do you understand how that will look? Yes, I said. It will look accurate. He did not respond. I sent the request in writing. I copied legal. I attached Dana's forwarded email. And I added one more sentence. Please confirm by 3 p.m. that the client has received a corrected document and that no materials identifying me as an approver will be used without my review and written authorization. Victor replied at 2:57 p.m. Handled. But he did not send the corrected document. He did not notify Dana. He did not remove my name. Instead, at 3:40 p.m., Connor sent a revised version with one change. He added my name to a second approval line. That was not a mistake anymore. That was a decision. And, because it was a decision, it was the beginning of the end. But what happened at 9 a.m. the next morning is the part nobody saw coming, and it started with a single email Victor never should have sent. He was trying to protect his nephew and keep me quiet. Instead, he sent Alderon a message that proved Northstar had knowingly used my name without approval, ignored a contract risk, and misled the one client they could not afford to lose. At 9:03 a.m., my phone began ringing. Not once. 3 times in less than 2 minutes. The first call was from Victor. The second was from Connor. The third was from our general counsel. I answered the general counsel. Can you come to conference room, V? She asked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I'm coming, I said. When I walked in, Victor was standing near the window. Connor was seated at the far end of the table, pale and silent. The general counsel sat beside the chief operating officer. And on the screen at the front of the room was an email from Dana Whitcomb. The subject line read, Immediate contractual concerns, Alderon Medical Properties. The email had been sent at 8:51 a.m. It was addressed to Victor, the COO, legal, and the CEO. Not me. But I was copied. Dana had attached both versions of the emergency service matrix. The first document with my name. The revised document with my name twice. Then she included one simple question. Please confirm whether Ms. Reeves approved either of these documents. Victor was the first person to answer her. At 8:58 a.m., before legal could review the situation, he wrote, Simone has been closely involved in the account transition and her expertise informed the materials provided. We stand behind the plan. He did not say I had approved it. Not exactly. But he wrote it in a way designed to make Dana believe I had. That was his mistake. Because Dana forwarded the message directly to me. At 9:01 a.m., she asked one question. Is this accurate? The general counsel looked at me. Did you approve either document? No. Did you authorize anyone to use your name? No. Did you contribute to the service commitments in the matrix? No. I said each word clearly. No anger. No hesitation. No. The COO turned toward Victor. Why did you tell the client Simone's expertise informed the materials? Victor's face tightened. She had been involved in the account for years. That wasn't my question. He looked down at the table. I believed she had reviewed the transition materials. The general counsel opened a folder. Victor, she emailed you yesterday at 12:12 p.m. stating she had not reviewed the document and demanding that her name be removed. He said nothing. She copied legal. The general counsel continued. Still nothing. Then she opened another email. At 3:40 p.m., Connor sent a revised document to Alderon with Ms. Reeves's name listed twice. Did you approve that? Connor looked at Victor. Victor did not look back. The silence went on just long enough for everyone in the room to understand what it meant. Finally, Victor said, I was trying to avoid creating confusion with the client. The COO leaned forward. By telling them a person approved a document after she explicitly said she did not? Victor started to answer, then stopped. There are times when a person's confidence does not disappear all at once. It drains out in small pieces. The polished phrase fails. The practiced smile never arrives. The room stops treating their voice like authority. That was what happened to Victor. He had spent months acting as though the account belonged to him because his title said it did. Now he was sitting in a room where an email trail showed exactly how little he understood about the responsibility. The general counsel looked at me. Dana has requested a call at 10 a.m. She has invoked the contract review clause. My stomach went still. Not because I was surprised. Because I knew what that meant. The January amendment. The clause Victor had dismissed. If Alderon believed Northstar had misrepresented service commitments or failed to maintain required response capacity, they could begin a formal review. And Northstar already had one response time exception from the missed generator test. A second one had occurred 2 nights earlier. Connor had not escalated it. A plumbing failure at the Louisville surgical site had remained unaddressed for 48 minutes. The contract allowed 30. The system logged the time automatically. That was 2 exceptions. One more and Alderon had a clear path to terminate. The COO asked, Can we keep this account? No one answered immediately. Then Victor looked at me. It was almost automatic. The same move he had made every time there was a difficult question. He wanted the person who understood the details to solve them. But this time, he had already removed me from the work. He had told the client I approved documents I had rejected. He had allowed his nephew to use my name after I put my objection in writing. And now, with $30 million on the line, he had nowhere to hide. I spoke carefully. We can keep the account if we tell the truth immediately, correct the service matrix, acknowledge the approval issue, and give Alderon a recovery plan they can verify. Victor interrupted. We cannot admit fault in a way that creates more exposure. The general counsel looked at him. You are no longer directing this response. It was a quiet sentence. But it changed everything. The COO turned to me. Can you lead the call with Dana? I thought about the past 3 weeks. The empty calendar. The reassignment. The 31-page handoff memo. Victor's certainty that I was too central. Then I looked at the people across the table. I can lead the operational recovery, I said. But I need 3 things in writing. The COO nodded. Name them. First, my authority over the Alderon account must be restored immediately. Done. Second, no client commitments can be changed without approval from operations and legal. Done. Third, I need direct access to all staffing records, service logs, vendor schedules, and internal communications related to Alderon for the last 60 days. Victor finally looked alarmed. He knew what that third request meant. It meant I was going to find every shortcut, every missed escalation, every decision made to make Connor look capable. The COO said, "You'll have it." At 10 a.m., I joined the call with Dana. Victor was not included. Connor was not included. The CEO was there. Legal was there. The COO was there. And I was there. Dana did not waste time. "I want to understand why your company sent us a service matrix using the name of an employee who did not approve it," she said. The CEO started to speak. I asked if I could answer first. She nodded. "Dana," I said, "the document should not have identified me as an approver. I did not approve it, and the representation has been corrected internally. I understand that this damages your confidence in us." There was silence on the line. Then Dana said, "Thank you for saying that directly. That mattered. Not because it fixed the problem, but because honesty was the only thing still available to us." I explained the recovery plan. We would restore full overnight escalation coverage at all 7 critical sites within 24 hours. We would provide Alderon with daily service reporting for 30 days. We would conduct third-party verification of emergency response readiness. We would personally review every open maintenance item before the end of the week. And we would assign one accountable operational lead. Me. Dana listened. Then she asked the question I had been waiting for. "Are you actually back on the account?" "Yes," I said. Her answer was immediate. "Then I'm willing to give you one chance to stabilize this." One chance. That was all. But it was more than Victor deserved. And more than Northstar would have had if I had not kept every email. For the next 72 hours, I barely slept. I reviewed 640 service tickets. I found 4 additional late response risks before they became formal exceptions. I discovered that Connor had changed the escalation roster without notifying 2 of the night supervisors. I found an invoice dispute that had been sitting unanswered for 18 days. I found 3 site inspections that had been marked complete without supporting photos. And I found the most damaging detail of all. Victor had instructed Connor to reduce the overnight staffing plan at the 7 critical medical sites. Not because the sites needed less coverage. Because he wanted to show a higher profit margin before the quarterly board meeting. The email was dated 11 days earlier. Victor wrote, "Alderon is not going anywhere. We need to demonstrate leverage on labor. Alderon is not going anywhere." That was the sentence. The sentence that proved he had treated the company's most important client like they had no choice. He thought revenue made them dependent on us. He never understood that the opposite was true. We were dependent on them. I sent the email to legal. Then I focused on the recovery. By Friday afternoon, every critical site had verified coverage. Every open emergency item had been resolved or assigned a documented deadline. Dana received a daily update at 6 p.m. sharp. No vague language. No polished reassurance. Just facts. At 6:12 p.m. Friday, she replied to my final report. "Thank you. This is the first accurate operational picture we have received in several weeks." I read that sentence once. Then I forwarded it to the CEO and COO. No comment. No victory lap. The work spoke for itself. The following Monday, Victor was placed on administrative leave. Connor was removed from the account immediately. He was not fired that day. But he was no longer permitted to communicate with Alderon, approve staffing decisions, or represent Northstar in client meetings. His last message to me was short. I didn't know any of this would happen. I believed him. That was the sad part. Connor was inexperienced, but Victor had taught him the worst lesson possible. That confidence was a substitute for preparation. That titles were more important than competence. That you could put someone's name on a document and call it leadership. Victor resigned 6 weeks later. The official explanation said he was leaving to pursue new opportunities. But Northstar's board had reviewed the internal findings. They knew about the false approval representations. They knew about the staffing cuts. They knew about the ignored contract risks. And they knew that he had put 60% of the company's revenue at risk because he wanted to prove his nephew could do a job he had not earned. Alderon did not terminate the contract. Not that quarter. Not the next one either. But they amended the agreement. Northstar had to accept independent performance audits. We had to provide monthly compliance reports. And all major service changes required Dana's written approval. The company lost leverage. They lost profit margin. They lost the easy version of the contract Victor thought was guaranteed. But they did not lose the client. Because I had restored the only thing that mattered. Trust. 3 months later, the CEO offered me the role of Vice President of Client Operations. A real role. A real team. Authority in writing. I accepted it on one condition. No one could use my name, my approval, or my work product without documented sign-off. The CEO agreed before I finished the sentence. And on my first day in that role, I walked into the Alderon Operations review with Dana on the screen. She looked at me and said, "I'm glad you're back." That was enough for me. Not applause. Not revenge. Just the truth landing where it belonged. The client had never needed Victor's confidence. They needed someone who understood that a promise only matters if you can prove you kept it. If that hit you the way it hit me, hit subscribe. This channel is proof that being underestimated is a warning, not a weakness. Here is the lesson. If you carry a major client relationship, do not confuse being trusted with being protected. Trust can make you valuable. Documentation makes you untouchable. Know your rights at work. Know what you are authorized to approve. Know what your name can legally represent. And if someone uses your name, title, or credentials without your consent, object in writing. Immediately. Keep your handoff notes. Keep your escalation records. Keep the emails that show what you warned people about and when you warned them. Not because you should expect the worst from everyone, but because when pressure hits, people with weak judgment often start rewriting history. They will say you knew. They will say you agreed. They will say you were involved. A simple email can stop that story before it starts. Be professional. Be factual. Do not threaten. Do not panic. Just make the record clear. You are not powerless because someone has a bigger title. You become powerful when your facts are organized, your boundaries are written down, and your work can stand without anyone else's version of the story. Victor thought I was too central to the account. What he meant was that he had never taken the time to understand what held it together. And the next case started when they gave my office to the CEO's nephew. He walked in on Monday with a new title, my old desk, and the confidence of someone who thought the hard part had already been done. Then he tried to log in and discovered that the entire system he was supposed to manage had been built around knowledge he did not have. Subscribe so you don't miss what happened when the CEO realized his nephew could not even access the work he had been handed.